Good evening, students. Today we're coming to talk about the trigeminal nerve, also known as the fifth cranial nerve. The first thing to understand is the prefix triad. If you hear the prefix triad, TRI, it means you're talking about three. So, trigeminal nerve, which is the fifth cranial nerve, it has the name triad and then geminal. So, trigeminal here, taking into consideration the prefix triad, means it has three major branches. What are these three major branches? We have the ophthalmic branch, the maxillary branch, and of course the mandibular branch. Ophthalmic branch, maxillary branch, and mandibular branch. If you remember when we talk about the cavernous sinus, you realize that we have the ophthalmic and the maxillary branches passing through there, but we don't have the mandibular branch passing through over there. So when we look at it critically, we're coming to talk about the areas where the trigeminal or the fifth cranial nerve innervates, so that when it goes or it becomes deceased, or when there's a palsy, or when it becomes affected, then you realize that those areas will also be affected. Alright, so let's talk about the ophthalmic branch. So the ophthalmic branch in itself has also three other major branches. These include the frontal branch, the nasociliary branch, and then the lacrimal branch. Okay, so let's talk about each of them and what they do. Generally, the ophthalmic branch is sensory in nature. Maxillary branch is sensory in nature, but the mandibular branch is not only sensory, but it has some motor effects. As we delve more into the discussion, you understand what we are talking about. So, if you look at the green area, that is the area where the ophthalmic branch supplies. Okay, so let's talk about the frontal nerve, which is a branch of the ophthalmic division. The frontal nerve, where does it supply? It supplies the forehead, supplies the scalp. It also supplies the frontal sinus, also supplies the ethmoidal sinus. Okay, apart from that, we realize that the frontal branch, it supplies the upper eyelid and its conjunctiva. Look at the upper eyelid here. Okay, and then its conjunctiva, in that case the palpebra or the tarsal conjunctiva of the upper eyelid. Okay, so basically these are the areas where the frontal nerve, which is a branch of the ophthalmic branch, supplies. Let me repeat. It supplies the forehead, the whole of the scalp. It also supplies the ethmoidal sinus. It supplies the frontal sinus. But apart from that, it supplies the upper eyelid and its conjunctiva. Okay, now let's talk about the nasociliary nerve. Nasociliary nerve. Which area does it supply? It supplies the cornea. It supplies the side of nose up to the tip of the nose. It also supplies the upper portion of the nasal cavity, as you can see here. Okay. Apart from that, it supplies deeper structures within the eyeball, namely the iris and the ciliary body. Of course, it also supplies some of the sympathetically innervated fibers that are within the pupil to help in pupillary dilatation. Okay, so those are the nasociliary fibers. And of course, The last but not the least branch of the ophthalmic division is the lacrimal branch. Of course, the lacrimal branch supplies the lacrimal gland, making it get what? Sensation. Okay? Sensory. It supplies the lacrimal gland with sensory nerves. So that is about the ophthalmic branch of the trigeminal nerve. Okay. Let's now draw attention to the maxillary branch. Okay, it supplies basically the area which is in wine color. It supplies the area which is in wine color. It's also basically sensory in nature. So the maxillary nerve, what does it supply? Okay, so it supplies the lower eyelid with its conjunctiva, as you can see here. Okay, it supplies the side of nodes, okay, including the side of nodes. It also supplies the lower aspect of the nasal cavity, okay. It's also in charge of supplying the cheek. If you can see the cheek over here, it supplies the cheeks, and of course the maxillary sinus, okay. It supplies the cheek and also the maxillary sinus. Apart from that, it supplies the upper lip. It supplies the upper lip, okay. It also supplies the upper gum, upper teeth, and of course the upper palate, okay. All right. So apart from that, remember that it supplies the lacrimal gland, okay. It also helps in supplying some portion of what? The lacrimal gland, giving it what? Sensory innervations. Apart from all this, within the nasal cavity, there are certain glands. It helps in giving sensory innervation to certain glands that are found within what? The nasal cavity. Alright, so that is it about the maxillary nerve, or the maxillary branch of the trigeminal nerve. Okay, let's turn our attention to the mandibular branch, the last of, and of course, but not the least. Okay, the last but not the least. Alright, so what does the mandibular branch do? It has both sensory and motor functions. So first and foremost, we come to talk about the sensory function, and then we will talk about the motor function. Now, its sensory function, it gives sensory innervation to the outer ear. Okay. It also gives sensation to the mucous membrane and floor of the buccal cavity. The mucous membrane and the floor of the buccal cavity. Alright. It also gives sensation to anterior two-thirds of the tongue. Sensation that we get from anterior two-thirds of the tongue. It also gives sensory innervations to not only the submandibular, but also sublingual and the parotid gland. Submandibular, sublingual, and then the parotid glands. Alright. Apart from that, it gives sensory innervation to, as you can see, the lower lip, the chin, lower teeth, and lower gum. So these are the sensory innervation and areas that the mandibular branch, its sensory area helps in covering. Now, let's talk about its motor aspect. Okay, basically, this falls into the domain of the dental surgeon, but we can just brush over it. Okay, so the motor aspect, what does it do? It supplies the muscle that helps in mastication. In other words, the muscle that help us in chewing. Which are these? One, the masseteric muscle. Okay, masseteric muscle, somewhere found here. The temporalis muscle, the medial and the lateral pterygoid muscles. These are the muscles that helps in what? Mastication or chewing. And that is where it gets its motor function. Okay, so that is about that. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have an affection of the trigeminal nerve, sometimes you can narrow down to the branch which is affected. Other times, if it's the whole nerve which is affected, you can also go get to know that. How? All you need is to take good history and appropriate examination. If it's about sensory aspect, you check, okay, by touching, all right, all the zones that are supplied by the nerve and ask the client if they have sensation over there. If sensation reduced, then you know that the nerve is affected. Apart from that, if it is about the motor function, you ask the client to chew for you to see, move the jaw to the left and to the right, and you can find out. Again, how much saliva can they produce? If it's the salivary glands that are affected and they are not producing enough saliva, then you know that there's an affection. If the anterior two-thirds of the tongue is affected, with poor taste, you know the trigeminal nerve is affected. So in a gross summary, it is good to take very good history, appropriate examination, and do some ancillary tests if it becomes necessary. Sometimes a tumor may be found compressing the nerve. Okay, so that is one of the etiologies. Another etiology could be that it could be as a result of systemic disease like leprosy, diabetes, viral diseases like HIV, herpes zoster, herpes simplex, and the list is long. Hey, sometimes it can be due to iatrogenic destruction of this nerve during dental procedures or other parotid tumor that the surgeon is working on. He can iatrogenically cause paralysis or sometimes inadvertent interference with the nerve, and then therefore it becomes damaged. Sometimes too it may come as part of a bigger syndrome, okay, cavernous sinus syndrome, orbital herpes syndrome, and so on and so forth. So I will bring the lecture to an end here, and I hope you jot down all the notes. If you have difficulties, put them down. Once we meet in class, we can clarify them with me, but you need to continue watching and listening so that the material will be of essence to you. Thank you very much, and we will meet in class very, very soon. Okay, until I meet you again, goodbye.